Hi there, welcome to my V-Zine. I'm Becky from 168 Fitness. Thanks very much for clicking on. I'm just back from a run session, so I thought now would be a good time to record my V-Zine for this week. So part 2 of our race preparation question and answer session. I've got a few more questions that I was sent in to help you prepare for your springtime races. So you've probably got about 2 or 3 weeks to go until you start racing, whether that be a 5k, a 10k or a half marathon or even maybe a marathon. So I am going to try and help you get to the race in as best shape as possible, in the best frame of mind, and also ready to go and achieve your fitness goals. So first of all then, first question I've got for this week is so what distance do you need to have already run to be able to complete a half marathon? So my advice for that would be 6 miles is sort of the minimum distance that you'd want to have already covered, preferably 6 miles running non-stop. And ideally 10 to 13 miles. Now that might be a combination of running and walking, but to have covered 10 miles it would be great, and having done the full 13 miles prior to the race will just help you a bit more psychologically, but definitely 6 miles would be good. Okay, next question. Do you need energy gels, so the sachet gels that you can buy, do you need those for the race? So I would suggest that for over 2 hours, if you're running something like a half marathon or a marathon and you're going to be running for over 2 hours, then gels would be a good idea. So yeah, half marathon or over, but not 5k or 10k, because you're just not running for long enough. You shouldn't need to take on extra energy. You won't have used up all that you have inside you already. So just make sure that you have a meal before, perhaps something like, I like my porridge with honey and banana, so perhaps something like that just to fuel your race, but you don't need to take anything on whilst you're doing it. You also might want to find out before the race at what point they're handing them out, so that you can practice when you need them. I know that I sort of need to, if I'm doing a long training run, in my marathon training that I'm doing at the moment, after 11 miles, to keep the pace up, I sort of need to take on some more energy, and then I'll do it every 3 miles after that. But you may be different, so maybe practice and have a look when they're giving them out in the race, so that you know whether you need to carry any with you or not. Also, experimenting on your long runs just to see whether you need it. If you feel like the pace is dropping, or you're starting to sort of hit the wall a little bit, which is where you sort of feel like you just can't go any further, like you've run out of energy, then perhaps you do need to be taking some gels with you as on your runs. It leads into my next question. If you don't like the energy gels, are there any alternatives? So yes, there are. I don't actually like the gels. I've had one once in my back pocket and it sort of leaked out and was all sticky for the rest of the race. So I don't like the gels either, the texture of them. So I actually eat jelly babies, or the shot blocks. You get a pack of shot blocks. They're made by Cliff Bar, and you can buy those in running shops or online. But jelly babies obviously are readily available in the shops, so they are just good for sugar, quick release sugar, easy to carry with you, quite light, and also don't take much chewing, so they're quite easy to take in. Obviously there are other alternatives, and it's just a case of you trying what's best for you. You may just want to take an energy drink with you, so that you've got some fluid with a bit of extra energy in it to take on if you can't really think about eating whilst you're running. That's why the gels are good, because they don't actually take any chewing or anything like that to take them down, but they're not always the nicest thing to take in. So do what's best for you, basically. Getting nervous about your race, how can you relax yourself? So my best advice for this would be to think positively. You've done the hard work, you've done the training, and now you've just got to sort of just make it pay off on the race day. Don't put yourself under any pressure though. It doesn't really matter. It only matters to you what time you do it in, or you obviously want to complete it, but it doesn't matter what time you do it. No one's going to turn around and say you didn't do very well, because whether it's a 5k, a 10k, or a half marathon, or even a marathon, like, it's a great achievement whatever it is. So don't worry about that, and just think positively about it. And like, think what's the worst that could happen. Like, if you didn't do a very good time, it doesn't matter, does it? You will get round. If you think positively and are mentally strong, then that's half the battle, really, or more than half the battle sometimes. Like, especially if you've already done the physical training to get you there, and you know you can do it physically, it's just the mental battle that you've got to get through. So definitely thinking positive, keeping your goal in mind, and just keeping focus the whole way round would be my best advice. Finally, so when running, what should you be thinking about? So pretty much what I've just said. You could be focusing on your goal. If you're aiming for a time, then you need to be thinking about sort of what pace you're running at that moment, and your technique and things like that. So so what I would suggest is, when you're racing, if you're aiming for a good time, that you are thinking about exactly what you're doing. You're thinking about how your legs feel. Are you strong at your core? Are you nice and tall? Head up, shoulders relaxed, chest up, that sort of thing. Striding out, how fast you're going, that sort of thing. Can you push any more? Are you on pace? What time are you aiming for, and things like that. Anything that is to do with actually how you're running and how you're racing. That's one way. Or you can completely distract yourself. If you're not particularly aiming for a time, and you just want to get round and just enjoy it, then you can completely distract yourself, and think about like the person running next to you. You can think about what you're going to cook for tea. When you get home, you can think about what you're doing next week or something like that. That's the sort of thing you'd probably do in training, to get through any long runs that you're doing that perhaps you may be a bit bored on, sort of playing games in your mind, thinking about what colour car is going to come around the corner next, that sort of thing. But if you're racing and you're really trying to push yourself, then I would recommend thinking about exactly what you're doing, and not letting your mind wander, or else you'll maybe slow down and not be pushing yourself as much. So personally, I like to run feeling focused on what I'm actually doing. So do I feel strong today? Do I feel like I'm striding out enough, strong at my core, like things like that, like what pace I'm running at, so that I'm focused on what I'm doing, and only when I don't particularly want to be doing what I'm doing, when I'm running long distances and just for slow runs, just for miles, then that's when I would think about other things that aren't related to what I'm doing. But that would be my advice. So hopefully that has been useful for you today. Just a few questions to keep you going in your race preparations. If you do have any more questions, then feel free to get in touch. Send me an email, drop me a Facebook message or a tweet, and I'll be answering some more questions next week in part 3 of my race preparation guide.